Hello, welcome to Theology Thursday. You may have somewhere at some time heard someone talk about apologetics or Christian apologetics. So I want to talk today just for a few minutes about what is apologetics, what are some of the types of apologetics, and then how that kind of affects all of us. So first of all, what is apologetics? The word comes from a Greek word, apologia, and it means defense. It's used most of the time in the book of Acts, where oftentimes Paul would make a defense before a judge, a magistrate. It's used in a very legal sense, like in a court where you defend yourself. But two significant passages in the New Testament are used oftentimes when we talk about apologetics as Christians and when we think about apologetics. The first one's found in Philippians chapter 1. It's found in verse 16, but I'm going to read the verse before it to set it in context. So in Philippians 1:15 and 16, the Apostle Paul says, "Some indeed preach Christ from envy and rivalry, but others from goodwill. The latter do it out of love, knowing that I am put here for the defense of the gospel." And the word defense there is the apologia. I am put here to apologize the gospel, to defend the gospel. So apologetics is not what we think of as apologizing, what we think of as saying I'm sorry, but instead is building a defense for what we believe, defending what we believe, building a case for what we believe. So here the Apostle Paul says that his defense is a defense of the gospel. He says, man, I've been put here so that I can build a case for the gospel of Jesus Christ. So when people ask questions, or they reject, or they deny, or how could someone believe that? Then Apostle Paul says, I can defend my beliefs. I can present a case as to why I believe in it. So apologetics is defending the faith. Now, the passage that most apologists like, and it's usually quoted in reference to apologetics, is in 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15. So 1 Peter 3:15, he says this. Matter of fact, I'm going to start in verse 13, so we get a running start. "Now, who is there to harm you if you are zealous for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled. But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience," and all of that. So when he says that you can make a defense to anyone who asks you a reason for the hope that is in you, we can say, here's what we can present our case. And that word defense there again is apologia. So apologetics is basically making a case for Christianity, making a defense for what we believe. So the idea behind apologetics, there are two ideas behind apologetics. The first one is that we have a mind that God has given us. We can think about things, we can reason things out, we can put them together in a logical A, B, C, D, E, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C, all that kind of stuff you learn in a logic class, philosophy. So we do not believe that Christianity is anti-intellectual. It's okay to use your mind. In fact, the Bible talks about the renewing of the mind in Romans chapter 12. And so, and guard your mind, and gird up the loins of your mind. There are a number of references in the Bible to the way we think. And so the first thing that kind of undergirds philosophically apologetics is that we can use our minds. We don't go, well, you just got to believe. Well, you just got to take a blind leap of faith. We don't believe that. We believe that it is okay to use our minds, that as Christians we are unafraid to put our faith, what we believe, under intellectual scrutiny. Okay? We believe it can withstand intellectual scrutiny. The second thing then about apologetics is that we can use our minds, and when we come to the Bible, when we come to concepts of God and all of that, it is reasonable. We can present a case for Christianity. We don't just say, well, history doesn't match the Bible. Archaeology doesn't match the Bible. Science doesn't match the Bible. Math doesn't match the Bible. Astronomy doesn't match. We know that really nothing matches the Bible, but we believe it anyway. We just have faith. You just gotta have faith. We don't believe that. We believe there is historical and geographical and scientific and astronomical, and you just go on down mathematical. We do believe that there are all of these things that the great case fall in line with the Bible. Like we can trust what God has said. So that's the first thing. Apologetics is defending the faith, presenting a case for our faith. The second thing I want to talk about is the way we approach apologetics. As you can imagine, a subject this important has proponents and adherents for a number of approaches, a number of ways of doing apologetics. There's classical apologetics, where you argue for the existence of God and that the God of the Bible is the Christian God is the right one. There's an argument that you start with the Christian God. There's cumulative case approach to apologetics. There is Reformed epistemology, which is an approach to apologetics. Classical apologetics, remember, most of those are what are called evidentialist or evidentialism, which is we can build our case by lots of evidence from the Bible and from history and from archaeology and from biology and from all the ologies that you can come up with. So we build a case, we present evidence. In fact, one of the most popular books is Evidence That Demands a Verdict. It was done by Josh McDowell many, many years ago, several decades ago, but the idea of there's evidence. And so there's evidentialism. Another approach is what's known as presuppositionalism or Van Tillianism, named after Cornelius Van Til, who's the primary proponent, even though there were others in various forms. Gordon Clark is a presuppositionalist, but he takes kind of a different approach than Van Til. But presuppositionalism believes that people come with a set of presuppositions, and they will filter the evidence through those presuppositions. And so we really need to try to take down the presuppositions to help them more honestly look at the evidence that's presented. So evidence by itself is not going to work. We have to present a different way of viewing and interpreting the evidence to try to pull down those presuppositions, because the heart of man is deceitfully wicked above all else. People see things from a sinful, self-centered perspective if they're not believers. And so we need to, they're skeptical. So presuppositionalism says, let's see if we can remove some of these presuppositions that people have, kind of attack those. And so I'm not going to sit here and try to argue and defend through all of these. I personally am a presuppositionalist. I'm a big fan of Cornelius Van Til, or he's no longer with us, now with Jesus in heaven. But I do like presuppositionalism. I think it's the best approach, and I think it fits into a lot of the other theological positions that I hold to. But those are just some of the ways that we approach it. But regardless of which one you have, you're still attempting to build a case for Christianity. That is apologetics. And that leads to the third thing. Why do we do apologetics? What is it? How do we do it? And why do we do it? And what methods do we kind of work this out? So there are two primary reasons for apologetics. The first one is probably not what you're thinking. That'll be the second one. The first one is to strengthen our own faith. Every year, some of our teenagers will go to an apologetics conference. And the idea is to give information, to build a case so that you can say, you know what? My faith is not unreasonable. My belief in Jesus and the virgin birth and the crucifixion and the resurrection are not just fairy tales. There are good, solid archaeological, historical, theological, philosophical, et cetera, reasons for believing that this is true. I mean, there's evidence that our faith is reasonable, that we can hold to it. I'll just give you a couple examples. The cloths that Jesus was wrapped in are left in the empty tomb. Well, so what? Well, if someone stole his body, they're going to take time to undress him. They'll do that later when they're back at their hideout. So the fact that the clothes are still there is evidence of there was a resurrection, not a stolen body. And the fact that many of the apostles were executed for their proclaiming that Jesus had been raised from the dead. You don't die if you know it's a lie. And so their martyrdom is evidence that the resurrection was true, that they weren't trying to pull one over on people. So there's just a couple just evidences that we give for believing the validity of the Bible. And so we want our own faith to be strengthened. So apologetics strengthens our own faith, that I understand not only what I believe, but that it's solid, it's secure, it's reasonable. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is probably what you're thinking of, and that is evangelism. If someone asks questions, that we answer as many as we can. Now, let me just say here, even professional apologists cannot answer every question. We know that. And sometimes people ask questions just to kind of be ornery, but they're not real legitimate questions. And I waste my time with those people. The Bible says don't cast your pearls before swine. But I do think that we need to know some basics. If we can, we're witnessing. And this is what I tell people. If someone asks you questions you can't answer, just say, you know what, I can't answer those questions. I'm just a chicken cook or whatever it is that you do. So, but I know some people that might be able to help. So, I've had a number of people over the years in churches I pastor. They got a friend or a relative who's asking questions, and I meet with them. And because this is my field and my area, the Bible, that I'm able to answer most, if not all, of those questions. So don't think, well, I can't talk to people about Jesus because I can't build this elaborate case for Jesus, and I'm not an apologist and all that. No. You present Jesus. That's what you do. That's what those passages told us. We're presenting Jesus. And if people begin to ask questions, answer the best that you can. And if they ask things you can't, then say, you know what, I can't answer that. But let me see if I can find the answer or someone that can give a good, reasonable answer. And so there is a strength in our own faith and a share our faith element to apologetics. The last thing I want to say about apologetics is actually found in Hebrews chapter 11. And it doesn't use the word apologetics, but I want you to hear what it says. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And the assurance of things hoped for actually means what we stand on. So the idea is that faith is not a blind leap, hope somebody catches me. Faith is I can stand right here because I know I have a reason for what I believe. I know whom I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I've committed unto him against that day. And so this is just like the way Hebrews 11 words it. Our faith is not a blind leap. Our faith is reasonable. It's good. It's built on something solid. And so apologetics is making sure we got that good solid foundation that our faith is built on, and then being able to share that faith as well. So when you hear the word apologetics or Christian apologetics, that's what we're talking about, building a case for the Christian faith. And so I hope that you are a believer, and if not, I hope you'll investigate the claims of Christianity. You will discover that they are true, that there's a reason for them, and that all the sciences and disciplines come together and bring a great deal of verification and vindication to the message of God's Word, because it is true and it is accurate. And so I hope you'll build a case in your own life, and it'll help you strengthen your faith when you realize this is not just a blind leap and, well, I'll believe no matter what the evidence says, that our faith is corroborated at many points by evidences that we find both within God's Word and history and other places. So here's the good news. You can use your mind, and that our faith is not blind and unreasonable. It is built on something solid and firm and secure. So I hope that you will be faithful when someone asks, that you can defend the hope that is within you. You can state why this hope is within you. But do it, as Peter said, with gentleness and kindness. So God bless you, and I hope you have a great day.